Oh, Charles.
How you doing, Bob?
I'm hanging in there. Me and the dermatologist got into a fight yesterday, and he won.
I was going to ask if you were trying to emulate Vincent van Gogh there.
Yeah, right. Well, close.
Close.
He missed by that much.
By about that much? Okay. You know, it could be a fashionable look. You know, you never know.
Well, I hope not.
Well, you know, you've got kind of that face, that Vincent van Gogh face, a little bit.
Oh, okay. Well, all right.
So
I never thought of it. No
well,
one's
you
ever.
know, kind of the reddish hair, the
Yeah.
you know, the little bit of kind of gray and beard and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could be a good stand-in for Vincent.
Oh, all right.
So
Now, a little. If I had a little more talent.
you know, I have been told, and I have to say I agree too. That talent is overrated.
Well, I've heard the same thing.
Well,
Persistence overrides talent.
Well, here's the thing. I've had students who are very talented, but they're also very stubborn.
So,
And they ask for help and they won't take it
mm-hmm.
because they're kind of set in, this is the way I've got to do it. And then I have people who may not have as much talent, but they work hard and they listen,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll take a chance. You know, they'll try new things. They'll get out of their box or their comfort zone, and they end up improving, you know, quite a bit more, and end up in the long run, I think, you know, doing better work.
Yeah, Ernest has complimented me saying I'm trainable sometimes.
Right, sometimes, yeah. Yeah, and that's, you know, that's important, you know, because there's a lot of people, you know, they're very set in their ways, and they're not going to be open to, you know, looking at it, you know, a different way. So,
Well, you know, I guess there's probably a very fine line between confidence and stubbornness.
mm-hmm.
You know, some people are very confident, and they're not. They're talented, and they have their ability to do the way they do it, and are in their basically in their lane, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. And then there's other people that are not that way.
Well, yeah. You know, I just look at it this way. It's like the longer I do this, the more humbling it becomes. You know, because you know, there's tons of people out there, you know, who are doing, you know, great stuff, and you know, I mean, they just are. You know, and it's a numbers game, but
Yeah.
you know, the only way you're ever going to get better, you know, I mean, or past the point where you are right now, is to sort of give that up and try starting from square one, following maybe a different approach, and and see if it works. I mean, it may not click with you 100%, but you're going to learn something along the way, and then you're going to adopt parts of it that work for you, But unless you can kind of step back and get away, kind of out of your own way, it does end up holding you back. I'm guilty of that. I've done that and regret it. So probably here in April, I may actually take a couple of weeks or a couple of days and go try to humiliate myself again and go down to the National Portrait Society conference and spend a few days down there.
Where is it this year?
It's here in Atlanta.
Oh, is it here in Atlanta? Okay.
Yeah. Somebody was talking. I think Claudia was talking about it the other day, and I need to look into it and take a couple of days and go down there and watch some of the paint offs and the workshops and stuff, and I might learn something. You never know.
Hey, that's kind of the point, I guess, huh?
We would hope.
Did you happen to notice yesterday's Google Doodle?
I'm sorry, what?
Did you happen to notice yesterday's Google Doodle?
No.
The little doodle they have on the Google when you do a search. Anyway, it was Rosa Bonheur, Bonheur.
Okay.
And she painted animals. And her famous one was the horse fair. And just fantastic animals. And she was the Google. Every time Google you do an inquiry, there's always a little cartoon or doodle or something there. And yesterday it was this woman who lived in the 1800s primarily, and do fantastic portraits and paintings of animals. That's basically what she was known for. It was quite interesting.
Okay. Yeah, I hadn't noticed that. Of course, did I do any searches? I think I did. But yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't normally I ignore those little things, but it showed a cartoon like doodle of a woman at an easel. So I thought, well, let me check that out.
Okay.
And it was this woman, fantastic animal paintings. Bob, she had a little dog that reminded me of yours.
Oh, okay.
Now to find out about
not all bad.
Yeah, to find out about the doodle, do you just go up and click on the doodle?
Yeah, that's it. Right. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've never done that. Thanks for making me aware of that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hello, everybody.
Hey.
Hey, Roger.
How we all doing?
Happy St. Patrick's Day. Hey, John, you didn't come to the St. Patrick
yeah, I was there.
The Old Crow Club.
I was there early.
So that's what all the noise was. See, I was back in the back, playing with and loading and stuff like that.
We have ice cream, cake, green beer.
No, I didn't stay for the festivities. I got there early and took it out, corned beef, cabbage, and the whole.
And your girlfriend was there.
Yeah, she said I saw her yesterday. She said she was going to be there. Yeah, but I was there. I was there right at 11:30. Just did a pickup and left.
Okay. All right.
So you were there, Charles. I didn't see you.
That's what I said. I was back in the back in the clay room. Doing what I do back there.
Charles, last night I was watching a movie. The name of the movie is The the goldfinch. And they mentioned there a Dutch painter, Karel Fabritius, who I went and real was a real painter. They made a movie about that paint.
Right. Mm-hmm.
What's about that paint was so famous?
I'm trying to remember the movie. And I remember, I remember kind of looking at it and seeing it. I don't think I've ever actually seen the movie, so I really can't tell you.
No, I saw the movie, but then I went on Google and to investigate about this painter. He was a Dutch painter, but I don't know if anything happened with that paint in that time or something.
Well, I'm sure there's lots of things happening. You know.
And today it's a famous paint, and it costs a lot of money. So
yeah.
So who was the artist? Who's the painter?
Yeah. Who was the artist? Exactly.
Hold on, man. Karel Fabritius, Dutch painter.
Okay. Do me a favor and put it in the chat so we can look at it.
All right, I'll do it.
Okay. Hi, Veronica. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I saw her 2 days ago.
You saw her.
Armando, was it 2 days or yesterday?
Oh, yesterday. Yes, yesterday. That's right. I'm old, Veronica. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And let's see. Ilan is here as well, right?
Yeah.
June.
And Bob.
Okay. Yeah. I'm looking for. There we go. Okay. Yeah, okay, so we got Armando, John, Veronica, Bob, Ilan, and June. Okay. Well, happy Thursday. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Happy Thursday.
Yeah, we're gonna look at a little work. I don't have a lot to share with you, but afterward, I'm going to share a whole bunch of stuff with you. Okay, it just won't be your work. Okay. So away we go. We'll get through this. And I went to the Atlanta Artists Center yesterday. And the reason I went there is I wanted to pick up my paintings from the last show. So I photographed the current, not all, but, a good deal of the current show so that we could, take a look at it, talk about, what they're doing there. So this is Bob's flower from Friday. And
Wow.
Bob's got a little color, in it. So Bob, is this graphite? What is this?
It's graphite with a little pastel in the middle.
Okay. All right, so you took a slightly mixed media approach. All right.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Well, the good news and, the nice thing here is that in looking at how you drew it, you definitely went in and lifted out, some little places in there, some little edges and some of the veining and stuff. And you did a nice job with that. Overall, you've got, a tone or a value so you can lift back to the light. You've got a good range of value, for that particular flower. Without making it, too overstated. And you got the structure of the flower, pretty much so, the way we were seeing it. So, yeah. So
I think he broke the curse, Charles.
about men drawing flowers?
Right.
Yeah.
I like to do flowers.
Yeah. And then here's your roll of tape and your 2 eggs, and there was a bottle or something back there.
Right.
Okay. And all of that works pretty good. Your shadow on your egg, the one to the right, seems to be kind of floating up kind of high, and it doesn't really follow the shape of the egg very well. But you got the value right and the contrast and all. But that's just a little minor thing. and you could knock like a little bit of the top of this off, kind of, like down in here.
I don't see the cursor.
You don't? Right
There,
there.
okay, now I see it. Now I see it. Okay,
Yeah, kind of about, cut it back to here.
right.
Yeah, so it kind of sits, back under the egg a little bit. But, again, everything reads. So, and then you've got, she was the challenge,
Yes.
with all the overlapping shapes. And here's the thing. You sort of shrank the legs
Yeah, right there. Yeah.
to kind of get her on the page, I think. And so it threw everything out of proportion, the legs to the body. Because of this foot right here would have really been the closest thing to us, it would have been quite a bit larger.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would have run back, to the hip. Now, what we were really kind of looking for here was we were looking at, overlapping shapes and forms, and where along that contour or the outline of a limb you could break that inside, right? And so like right in here, so you kind of stopped your line, and connected it up here. But if you would have just taken that and just, just ever so slightly, you brought it slightly inside,
Mm-hmm.
it would have, kept your eye moving around that form and made that leg feel round, So just little things like that. Same thing with kneecap. You see the line comes down, and like right in here, see that would have, the line, the top of the kneecap would have kind of broken in front of it to say that, okay, I'm in front of this part of the leg right here. So it pushes it back, pulls it forward. Same thing here, the shin or the calf. The line comes up, but it doesn't just come up and meet this. It comes up and then it comes inside just slightly. Again, pushing that lower part of the leg closer to us, pushing the kneecap, and then eventually the upper part of the leg further back. So those are the things that, I wanted you guys to look for, was where you can break that line. And got a video we'll play maybe tomorrow on classical drawing, and talking about, trying to, rather than drawing like, one continuous flowing line, how they would break, those edges and lines to indicate musculature and stuff like that, that is kind of subtle. Okay. So we'll look at that in the morning if you're going to be here. Here's your, this is Cassandra was her name. And, you got good proportion in this overall. Your overlapping shapes, seem to work as far as the arms coming in front of the legs and the upper part of the leg sitting in front of the torso. So everything works. She feels like, she's a little bit three-dimensional, and that her feet are closer to us and her hips are further away. So, you pulled that one off pretty well. These were the Haliborn, okay? And those are tough to draw. You kind of got the idea of it, and you're seeing where, like, one, see if I can find my cursor. You're seeing where one petal breaks in front of the other, and how that kind of repeats, all throughout the flower. So yeah. Now, as far as the shape and stuff like that, Haliborn are a little more kind of irregular shape. You've kind of made these all kind of very symmetrical, and that's not really the nature of that particular flower. The petals twist a lot of times. And so they have sort of unusual shapes to them and proportions as well, because they're not all the petals are not the same size. You know, some are a little bit smaller, some are a little larger. Then we have this landscape. Now, is this a pastel or?
Yes, pastel. Work in progress.
Yeah, yeah. I was looking at the texture of it, and I was just like, okay, that doesn't really quite look like paint. Okay. So you're doing a pastel. How big is this, Bob?
Let's see, how big is that? It's like 18. It's about 18 by 24, maybe something like that.
Okay. All right. So yeah, it's a fair size. And you can kind of get in there and work, you know, in some of those smaller areas. Where are you going to go from here? Do you think? Where are you going to?
Oh, I've got a lot of work to do on the back of the trees. A lot of those trees have got to be filled in more and look more like pine trees on the left-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to kind of put a trunk on the one on the right side that's reasonable. Maybe fill it out some more. This is I sent you a reference photo of this, and basically this was a magazine cover, and that little girl that you see there was my wife, and she was on this magazine cover.
You're
Which
talking
was,
about this reference right here.
right, and that the she and the dog and the little duck were superimposed in this copy. And then they put the title of the magazine up. I saw a copy once of the original of this thing, and it was, you know, real cute. And so anyway, I've tried this one 3 or 4 times and have not been very successful at it. So I'm trying one more time. Persistency.
All right. Yep, she's out walking with the duck and the dog.
Right.
Yeah. Pardon me, just a second. I'm going to put my my top on. I'm sitting here in the studio, and my chill bumps are getting chill bumps. So I think it's time to put a layer on.
Oh, are you chill?
Yeah, this this studio.
Oh, the studio.
Yeah, it's like a meat locker in here. You could literally hang beef in it. It would be fine. So, that's a little bit better. Okay. We'll warm up in a minute. All right. So, well, you know, it's a nice piece of reference. It is. In fact, you know, it'd make a kind of a nice painting. If I were going to do this, though, because of the scale of the figure, you know, I mean, if you wanted to get any kind of accuracy whatsoever, you know, on the figure and the dog and the duck, I would probably do this at least like a 20 by 30.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Because one of the things kind of working against you is the scale. And you know, you're not, you know, the figure's just not going to be large enough in here to really get.
That's what I was afraid of. Yeah.
Yeah, any real amount of detail.
Yeah, I mean, that's the center of attention. That's where it should be, in that area.
Yeah.
And make it. I agree.
Yeah. Now, since you're doing this in pastel, you have an option. You could. Have you got any like Carbothello pencils?
What kind?
Carbothello.
Carbothello. Doesn't sound familiar. What are they?
Okay. Well, they're not color pencils. They're actually like pastel pencils.
Well, I have 2 varieties of pastel pencils. They're not carbon. One of them's DeWitt, Derwit pastel pencil, and then another one that's a cheapy brand that I don't remember the name of.
Okay. All right. But, you know, they're like a regular sized pencil that you can sharpen down to a pretty fine point.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, because that's the only way you're going to really be able to pull that off. You know, and, you know, at the scale that you're working at. And it's still going to be difficult, even at that. So, yeah, you're going to be working with those little pencils as well as regular sized pastels.
Yeah. Yeah, Ernest kind of said the same thing. Says I need to have a microscope to work on the little girl's face.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, that face has got to be, you know, it's got to be smaller than your thumb.
Oh, it is. Oh,
You know?
definitely.
Yeah, probably only about a quarter of your thumb. So, yeah, that makes it real tough. It really does. Yeah. So yeah, working bigger would be better. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's go down to John. Yep. We got John Gigliotti here. And John sent this in. And so John, tell us a little bit about your painting.
I was just playing around this morning with trying to get some different effects of wet on wet. So I had very, very wet paper and was playing around with the sky, the mountains, water, and then I sort of just inspirationally added the figure walking.
Okay. Now, is this a woman?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Because it
Yeah,
looks,
she's got a hat on and like a scarf flowing, or skirt or whatever flowing.
okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought it was. Okay. I guess what I would say about trying to make her look more feminine would be, you know, here, like in the torso area, you know, you need a little more curve, you know, in the shape and not quite so straight.
But she's walking away, so that's why I did that. A little bit of waist and the buttocks, and the darker back.
But see, I would still taper that waist a little bit so that it reads, you know, clearly as like a female figure.
Well, it's like Bob. She's about the size of a thumb, so.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, that'd be my only comment.
Yeah, I was just sort of playing around this morning.
Okay. Yeah. Now, as far as, you know, you're getting some interesting like textures and things like in the mountains and stuff. You're getting
yeah,
kind of like graininess.
Right.
What kind of paper are you actually working on? Can I ask?
It's a regular. It was a water. I think this one was water. I've got two different kinds. I'm not sure, but I think it's 140-pound, just regular watercolor paper. But the texture came because it was so saturated that I was lifting out the tooth out of the paper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's got this kind of grainy feel to it.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's because of the wetness of the paper.
Yeah. So did you like pre-soak the paper or something?
No, I sprayed it.
Okay. With just like a spray bottle?
Correct, right.
Okay. And then you kind of let it sit there and kind of soak in for a bit?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that, you know, once you get the paper saturated with water, it's real hard to get it to go where you want it to go.
Yeah, that's what I found. Like I say, I was just playing around and see where I could go with it. So now I know where I can't go.
Okay. Well, you could. You know, I mean, you could lay in like, you know, like a big wash for the sky, or, you know, just some big color blocks, and then let them just sort of diffuse into each other.
Right.
Let that dry, and then, you know, even though you may not let it dry totally, just let it get dry enough so that when you lay a new wash down on it, or you
Yeah.
want to hold an edge, you can still keep kind of a tight line.
Well, playing in the sky, I didn't want the yellow and the blue to turn to a green sky. So
Yeah. Yeah. Now, are you playing with the idea of, rather than picking up paint on a paintbrush and then putting the paintbrush down on the paper, have you tried actually, lifting like wet paint up out of your palette and then holding it over the paper and letting it?
yeah, you mentioned that the other day. I haven't really tried. I didn't think about it when I was doing this, but yeah, I haven't done that yet. That would have been good to try here.
Yeah, I think you'll find that you'll get, and particularly in the sky. Those are places where, it would really shine, if you did that. Because
Yeah, I didn't think about that. No, you mentioned it. I didn't think about doing that.
yeah, because all of your edges and stuff like that get real soft and feel kind of organic and kind of natural.
Right.
So yeah, just keep that in mind next time. Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
And then, is Suzanne here? Suzanne Siegel? Can't see everybody. I'm assuming not. Yeah. All right. Well, we will save hers for another day. Okay. Bob, you weren't here the other day, were you?
When on
Yeah.
Tuesday?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I wanted to share a couple things with you. I shared everybody else. Remember this painting?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Well, I wasn't happy with it. So what did I do? I ended up putting more paint on it. And so I went back to work on it again. And this is kind of where it is right now.
Okay.
Which is unfinished, but I'm much happier with the kind of the flow of the figure and the pose. Also got better reference on her hands. And I've got to warm those hands up. They're a little too kind of gray. They don't quite fit with her skin tone yet. But, I had to go back in and repaint, like clean up and repaint some of the planets and things like that. So I still have a fair amount of work to do on this, but, I got the figure in, I got her, in her gown with all the little stars and stuff on it. And, I need to kind of pare down her fingers a little bit so that they don't look like they belong to a linebacker.
Yeah, she's got pretty good sized hands there.
Yeah. It's the length doesn't bother me as much as the thickness, so I'm going to kind of thin them down a little bit. Just give her a little more dainty look to her hand. But that's kind of the plan right now. But I like where that's going a lot better than, I was kind of stuck on it for a while. And it's like it was kind of done, and it's like, I'm not that happy with it. So it was nice, to get back into it and actually get some reference, from a model, and work with her. So also wanted to share this. This is what I did Sunday night at Shane McDonald's. And this is like a 2-hour painting. And it's not real big. It's like maybe a 9 by 12. But got a little paint down, kept it a little bit loose, which was nice. Totally made up the background, and what she was actually on a red piece of fabric that was about the same intensity of the red that I've got there. I just put a pattern on it, but it was solid. But that was kind of fun. And actually, she's going to be back this week as well. If this was a 2-week pose, so so I'm going to come back with a little bit bigger canvas and try to repaint this, but maybe make some changes to it along the way. And these were the gestures. These were like
Right.
gestures. So I didn't know whether you'd seen those or not, but you know, gestures actually worked out pretty well. So it wasn't a bad night. So yeah, that's pretty much all that I really wanted to share with you. Yep. Okay. All right. Ta-da. End of the show. But not. Okay, so yeah, close that part. Okay. So I want to play a video real quick. Okay. Because we talked a little bit about this thing about trying to paint more loosely, right? You know, and not get so tight. And this is Chris Fornatero. And he's doing like an actual demo and, you know, painting a landscape. And he's talking about this whole thing about, you know, trying to paint more loosely. It's not real long. It's about maybe 10, 12 minutes, I think. But, you know, I think he's got, you know, some good ideas, something that we might try, you know, if that's the goal, is trying to paint more loosely but accurately. Okay. So let's take a look and see. Yeah, right here. And get this up here, open it up a little bit.
Yeah.
He babbles a bit at first, but yeah.
All right, so in this video, we'll be talking about painting loose opposed to painting tight. First, I'm going to talk about why I like painting loose opposed to painting really tight and realistic. And then I'm going to give you some tips and advice on how to loosen up your paint with painting tight and loose. All right, so if you're new to the channel, my name is Chris Fornatero, and I'm here to help simplify oil painting so you can get better faster. And this is Paint Talk, the weekly show where I answer your questions on oil paint. So every Friday, I release one of these Q&A type videos where I answer your questions. Now, I do have other tutorial type videos on my page, so if you're looking for tutorials, exercises, demonstrations, stuff like that, go check those out on my page. Don't forget to hit those like buttons and subscribe to the channel. It really helps the channel grow. Now, I've recently kind of changed up the format of these paint talks, and I've actually really liked been doing these kind of big umbrella questions that cover a bunch of little questions. Because, like, for this topic, I get asked a lot of questions dealing with painting loose, painting tight, and people kind of ask the question in different ways and kind of different aspects. So I thought I'd make this video and have this talk that would just kind of cover all of it. Another new aspect is I'm showing a time-lapse video of a painting. This way the videos have more visual value. You get a glimpse into my painting process. You're not just looking at my big dumb face talking about painting the whole time. This time-lapse video actually comes from a full painting video tutorial that is on my Patreon page. If you're looking for full painting video tutorials, check out my Patreon page.
Okay, I'm going to stop you for a minute. Okay. Now look very carefully. Okay. Look first at the palette. What do you see up there?
4 colors, basically.
Huh?
4 colors, basically.
Oh, really 3.
Well, 3.
Yeah, he's got
Well, and white, basically.
Yeah. And white. But interestingly enough, these are those spectral colors. So it's like, you know, like a primary red, primary blue, primary yellow. Okay. And that's all he's using. He's not making, or he's not putting out like a earth tone or anything like that. You see, and what he's done is he's taken a little bit, you know, like a little bit of yellow, you know, some red and some blue, right? When he mixes the red and blue together, that's violet. The direct complement being yellow will neutralize it. And he's come up with, you know, this color for him to basically do his layout and figure out where things are before he starts laying down, you know, big pieces of paint. The other thing is, notice that he's working, on this piece of canvas, and the canvas has a tone on it, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, he's not working on white. And that way, see, he's already got a mid-tone down. So anything he puts on it, it's going to respond, as either looking much lighter and or much darker in value, or close to the same. And so, you see, it helps him see his range of value much better than just working on white. Okay.
Low. All right, painting loose. I've always been more drawn to loose painting than tight painting. Like I've never, gone back and forth. Like even when I was a little kid, when I first started, watercolor painting when I was 10 years old, I just immediately was copying people that had a looser style. That was just way more impressive to me because I'd drawn, since I was 3, and I picked up a little bit of skill in drawing, then kind of started transferring that to watercolor acrylic painting. And I don't know, I feel like that once I kind of got the hang of some few basic things, I could kind of see how somebody could keep improving on those techniques and pushing them and then getting to very realistic tight painting. It takes a lot of time and a lot of practice. It's difficult, but like I could see how someone could do that. When I would see these paintings that were very loose, and you stand back, 10 feet from them, and they look for the real, but then you get close, and it's just a mess of thick paint and it's kind of almost chaotic. I was just like, whoa, like how you do, I have no idea how you do that. Whenever I look at something and I think, I have no idea how you do that, like that's what interests me. Like that's what's really impressive to me. I was just blown away that someone could communicate so much with so little. It's kind of like being able to communicate the same story in the same way in a one-page poem as you could, in a full novel. Now, I'm not saying like realistic tight paintings bad. It's completely subjective. This is just my personal taste and why I like this painting. That's kind of a bummer because I feel that with all of the technology that we have now and how easy it is to get high resolution photos, I feel like loose painting isn't being taught and learned as much. Because you go online and you see pictures of paintings and you don't get that experience of seeing a painting from the appropriate distance, 5-7 feet away, and taking it in, and then being able to get up close. Like you're just given this one format of looking at it, which is on a screen, and it doesn't have nearly as much impact. Also, like thick paint, when you see thick paint in real life, it just has a completely different like.
What would you do if you could be normal and find a cure for us?
After years, it's finally possible. You do it.
You can't. There's no photograph that's going to capture that or give that same experience. So in that sense, I feel that looser painting styles aren't as good looking on computers and screens as photorealistic paintings. Also, the fact that a lot of people are painting from these photos that are so high resolution and that you can zoom in so much on them and get so much detail. I mean, I paint from a computer screen all the time. But the fact that you can do that, I feel people get caught up way too much in details. Because if you think about it, when you're painting from life is just the best. And that's, I feel like you're more likely to paint in a looser style when you paint from life, whether it's plein air painting or still life or a figure, portrait. There's just certain restrictions that happen naturally when you're painting from life. Like you're painting plein air, time is an issue. Things are moving. You have to capture things quickly. If you're doing a portrait of somebody, they're sitting a certain distance away from you, and you can't get really up close to them and get, you can't zoom in and get detail. I mean, you can get up and walk over to them, but that normally doesn't happen. You're set up at your easel, sitting down, standing up, whatever, and looking at your subject, and what you see from that distance is what you're going to paint. Yeah, there are people who do extremely tight, very realistic paintings from life. I'm just saying in general, especially when you're starting out and learning, painting from life is going to more than likely produce looser style paintings because of these restraints. Now, when I talk about loose painting or not tight painting, there's a difference between painting loose and painting sloppy. I'm not talking about painting sloppy. I'm not talking about just messing up your brush strokes for the sake of being loose. I'm more talking about a confidence. Like, I feel like when you really know what you're doing and you can communicate what you want with an economy of brush strokes, that you can lay down marks and color and value with a strong confidence. Like, you have a bigger brush, you lay down a mark and you're confident in that mark and you leave it. You don't have to go in there with extremely fine little brush and just, I think it's a good way of putting why I like looser paints. Is just that it exudes a certain amount of confidence handling the paint. All right, so what are some things that you can do to paint looser? I get this question asked so many times. I was actually talking to a student of mine about this, and he asked this very question. And just as I was saying before about painting loose and simply is like writing a poem that communicates the same amount as a full novel. And that in order to do that, you have to be very good with words. And with painting, I feel like you have to be very good at a couple things, mainly drawing and value. I feel those are the two main things that a viewer won't forgive. Like, we will forgive the wrong color if it's in the right value. We won't forgive a face if it's drawn poorly. I mean, think about it, like with a portrait, 1 millimeter off on an eye, and the eye's like too far cut. There's something wrong with the eye. Like, we're very quick to be bumped by drawing mistakes. In value, I've always said value does all the work and color gets all the credit. Color's fun, but that color needs to be in the right value, and value is how dark or light something is. And I feel like if you talk to like any painting instructor, they'll say the number one problem that their students have is just getting the right value. So you got to really understand those, because you can't rely on detail to make your paintings interesting. So I see a lot of beginners, trying to push the detail so much to make their painting interesting. And the truth is that the detail is not what makes your painting interesting. And you need to learn the base fundamentals of painting to understand why you find that subject interesting. Because it's not the detail, it's most likely the composition, the values, the relationship of values. So always be practicing and getting better at your value and your drawing. Another thing you can do is paint smaller. Paint on canvas sizes that are 5 by 5, 3 by 5, very small, and use a big brush and thick paint. And the thing is that when you paint that small, you're not going to be able to get detail, especially if you force yourself to use a big brush. You're going to be forced to see only the big shapes, and you're going to be forced to make those big shapes as accurate in value and color as you can, because that's all you have to work with. I do these little studies all the time. I definitely do them before I do a larger landscape painting, just to figure things out. And the great thing is that they're quick, and you can learn so much from a 30-minute painting. It's very clear what's working and what's not working. It also highlights what your strengths and your weaknesses are. You know right away what you're good at and what you're not good at. Another thing you can do is make sure that you're working big to small in terms of shapes.
Hi, my name is Daniel, and I created this painting, and I want you to imagine.
Yes, Daniel, go away.
Even when you are working on a bigger painting, break it down into the big shapes. I know this is simple, but it actually is pretty difficult. It actually takes a lot of practice to train your mind to see the big shapes. And you can build detail by working to smaller and smaller shapes throughout the painting. That's the cool thing about working that way and seeing shape, is that you can make the painting as detailed as you want. You can stop looking for smaller shapes whenever you feel you want to. So when you're painting and you catch yourself with a small brush at the beginning of your painting, and you're working a section of your painting pretty far along while there's other sections that have not been worked far along, stop, step back, work the painting as a whole. Make sure all these shapes are there, and bring it. Don't get too far along in one section, because you gotta always be comparing what's going on. You lay down a shape, you lay down a value, a color. You gotta step back and compare what you just laid down to everything else that is going on in your painting, and you're probably gonna have to make adjustments. So you lay down this color. Oh, looking at that color now next to this color, I realize I got to adjust this color, so I'm going to adjust this color. Well, adjusting that color now makes me rethink the color that's right here. You just keep doing that and building the painting all at once. Another thing that I always do, and it is my #1 tool that I always come back to whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed with shapes or detail, confused or lost, squint your eyes. Squint your eyes, get rid of detail. It's going to make you, one, see the shape a lot clearer. It's going to help get rid of color and make you focus more on value. When I squint my eyes, I don't see as much color. I'm just seeing light and dark shapes. And you need to get those working first before you go into any detail. So always squint your eyes, simplify your subject. If you can't see it when you're squinting your eyes, it's not important. It's another thing that squinting your eyes helps with. It shows you what's really important in a scene. Now, the saying goes, use a bigger brush than you think you need. I've heard that ever since I picked up a paintbrush. And it is true. Force yourself to use a big brush, especially if you're doing these exercises, especially at the beginning part of the painting. When you're first blocking things out, you need to be thinking big shapes. So get a big brush to cover a lot of area quickly. Because the quicker you get paint onto your canvas, the quicker you're going to be able to see what's going on, and the quicker you're going to be able to make adjustments. I talked about this earlier, paint from life. Paint from life as much as you can. I know it's more difficult, it takes more time to set up. You can't always get like a model to sit for you if you're doing a portrait, if you're painting in plein air. I know going outside, the bugs and the heat, the wind, it's tough. But if you can, try to paint from life, because just like I said, the physical restraint will force you to paint in a certain way. It will also force you to see in a certain way. The information that you're taking in from life is just better than the information taken looking at a photo. And if you paint in life enough, you'll be able to take what you've learned from painting in real life and utilize it when you do have to paint from a photo. It'll get to a point where you'll be using the photo truly as a reference, which is just a helpful tool, not the end-all, be-all, I have to make it look like this. So if you are working for a reference photo, don't get too close to your photo. Don't be holding it up right here, trying to get every little detail, especially at the beginning of the painting. Have it far, like set it up from you and have it at least an arm's length away at all times. The length is going to be different depending on how big your photo is. If you're painting from a phone, I really recommend not painting from a phone. I mean, I do it sometimes, but if you're just starting out, just, paint it. Like, you have a big computer screen, you can paint it from there. I mean, really the best is just printing it out. I mean, the colors aren't going to be as good if you don't have a great printer. But if you do have a big enough computer screen, like I said, like, I guess that would be the best way. It's just I see a lot of beginners trying to paint, they're painting like a really small image. It's like, of course, it's not going to turn out well. You're looking at an image that's like this big, blow it up, really see it, see the big shapes. A fun little exercise you can also do is paint with your non-dominant hand. That will really loosen you up. Another great exercise that I've had a lot of students do that they like a lot is find something that you think would take you a long time to paint, 5+ hours, and set a timer and paint that in 30 minutes. Now, this isn't going to make you produce a really good painting, but what it's going to do is force you to paint quicker. And when you paint quicker, you're going to realize what's important and what's not, because you're not going to have time to paint everything. One, it's going to make all of your weaknesses rise to the surface so you can identify them. And it's going to make you see what are the important elements in the scene. And you'll find quickly that it is not detailed. All right, that's it for this week's Paint Talk. Again, if you like the video, if you like the channel, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you look for full painting video tutorials, including the one that you just saw in this video, check out my Patreon page, link in the description below. Also, I am building a Foundations of Oil Painting course. It's going to be an awesome course. I plan on releasing by the end of the year. And if you don't want to miss out on when I release that course, you need to sign up for the Paint Coach newsletter, which is linked below. It's for the Shortcut to Color Mixing Guide.
All right. What'd you guys think?
I like
Now,
it.
was that his finished painting?
That was a study, you know,
Okay.
that he was doing,
Okay. Right.
but it was a demonstration of how to paint more loosely, which that was, you know, and the thing is, you know, a lot of people say paint loose, but what they really mean is you want to paint loose, but accurate at the same time. You know, because you can paint loose and really sloppy and make a big mess, or you can paint loose but accurate and, you know, look, you know, get things to read the way you want them. And so, you know, I thought he had a good approach there, you know, and it's stuff I talk about all the time. You know, start with a big brush, you know, simplify, find big shapes, you know, dark and light areas, values, and then, you know, work down from there. And, you know, if you want to keep your painting loose, just don't ever get down to the point where you're using that number, you know, that number 2 or number, you know, 4 brush, you know, keep it, you know, keep it at about a 6 or an 8, and don't go any smaller than that, you know. And
That's what I would like. I would like to have seen his actual finished painting of that study to see how much detail he really put in afterwards and on the finished.
yeah, that it wasn't far from being done, you know, when he cut that video off. You know, again, it was a fairly small painting, and it was done as a study. Now, what I would like to see is after he did the study, what he translated that into, you know, when he got to the bigger painting and did the bigger painting keep some of what we call the freshness or directness, you know, in the brushwork, you know, and that would have been, to me, interesting to see.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I was.
Yeah. So that being the case, okay. How you doing, Eloise?
Good, thank you. I had a question. Why did he say he did not like painting from the phone? I like painting from the phone because you can enlarge it.
Well, you can, yeah, but you know, you're sitting here holding the phone, you know, and you're like, you know, looking at all the detail and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's you know, the more detail you see, the more you want to put in. Okay. Now I have another solution. Okay. Actually, I have 2 solutions. Okay. If you want to paint loosely, first thing you do is get a photo editing application. You bring your photo into that application and you blur it. Not a lot, just a little bit. Just blur it. The next thing you do is you convert it to black and white, you know, or grayscale. Okay. And then you don't save it. What you do is you do a save as, you save a copy of it, you know, and then you work from that slightly blurred black and white photo. And that way, all you're seeing is values and shapes, right? And no hard edges. So you will have to make a decision about where your focal point is and where you want to put those hard edges, you know, which you can do with the brush, okay? And then you're also, it frees you up because you're not worried about color. All you're worried about is value. And so you can make anything, any color you want, as long as you make it the right value. See? So, you know, that's an old Illustrator trick that I learned many, many, many years ago. Because, you know, and before computers, what we used to do is we used to take them, you know, down to like a copy machine place, you know, and instead of getting a color, well, even early color copies, you could turn the color off and just have it printed in black and white, right? And the fact that you're making a copy off of that original photo, you're going to lose detail. So it helps simplify things quite a bit. Yeah, that's another way of doing it. But, you know, the main thing is, you know, just get away from it, you know, far enough so, you know, you're not trying to see every little nuance of stuff, and, you know, paint what you see, you know, and don't overwork it. I know that's easily said, not easily done. Because, you know, yours truly here, you know, I struggle with that, you know, still to this day. And, you know, that's why a lot of times, like when I paint a figure, you know, I like the gestures better than I do like the 2 or 3 hour long painting. See? Because with the gestures, I'm forced just to get down enough, and I don't overwork it. When I start, you know, getting into the figure, you know, and I get into, you know, the toes and the fingers and stuff like that, you know, it's too much detail. So oftentimes, you know, some of the stuff that you do quickly, you end up like, well, I know I like better than the stuff that I might spend a couple of weeks on. So that's just me. Let's see. So I want to share something with you. Okay. I'm going to share 2 things if we have time. One, I've been looking at a fellow online. He has he has a course, you know, a painting course. And, you know, he had kind of like this free thing where, you know, he talks about different aspects of painting for about a week, and you'll get that for free. And then he'll keep sending you stuff forever, you know, wanting you to spend money and actually take his course and become a student or something like that. But one of the things that he shared was he shared some of the paintings that he liked. And so I'm going to go through some of those real quick. And since we're talking about loose painting, right? We're going to talk about which ones are loose, which ones are tight. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to go through the Atlanta Artist Center show that I went to yesterday. Okay, let's close that. Should be right there. So right off the bat, very first painting. Would you call that loose, tight? You know, how would you describe that painting?
Loose.
Oops.
Very loose, right? Now this is the first guy.
Yes.
Now, you know, I have no idea how big this painting is. You know, it could be fairly small. And looking at the brushwork and stuff on it, I would imagine that it probably isn't very large. But notice how, you know, he hasn't painted, you know, those children, you know, or that woman sitting, you know, down by the river. You know, he's just laid in some loose brushwork and color. And yet there are 3 figures there. And it looks like, I think they're plucking a goose or something like that. I don't know what it is. Or doing laundry or something. But you know, you get, very clearly you get 3 figures. And then up the hill, you know, you get another, at least 3, 4. Yeah, another 4 figures. And then you've got the architecture and stuff there. And it's just enough. You know, he hasn't overworked it. You know, he caught some of the character of that scene, and that was enough. So That would be good for an exercise. This piece, same artist. Okay.
Same loose,
Huh?
same looseness.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, this one is a little more accurate, you know, and a little more refined than the previous one. Okay. But again, see, he puts in just enough to say, okay, it's two women, you know, they're sitting on these, you know, stools next to the wall, and that one of them is talking to a woman outside the window. Okay. And then you get, you know, some sense of the interior, you know, and some of the pottery and stuff, furniture, things like that. Again, you know, very kind of free, very loose brushwork, you know, plenty of fairly heavy paint laid down. Now this one appears to be a little tighter, right?
Yes.
Not the same, you know, artist. This is Alfred Sicily, who was an impressionist. Unfortunately, Alfred didn't live long enough. He died in the Franco-Prussian War, which was way too bad because I think he was only like in his mid-20s when he got killed. But really good painter. But again, you know, very loose sort of brushwork, but accurate. And you know, the thing about Sicily's work is he was accurate with his drawing and his value and color temperature. He really knew how to manage, you know, color in a really nice way. So here's an example of a figure. Now this is an outdoor figure, but as you can tell, you know, this is not a tight painting. Okay, but you can tell what's going on. You know, everything is there, right? You know, the foliage, the, you know, the water, the tree limbs, you know. Whoop. Come back here. Whoop. Went too far. There we go. And again, I don't really know how long, you know, really how large this painting is. I'm suspecting it's not very large, you know. I'm thinking maybe 8 by 10, maybe 11 by 14. Probably not any bigger than that. But again, you know, very loosely painted, but accurate. You know, accurate. You know, the shapes, the values. You know, everything's there. You know. Again, you know, here's a landscape. Now this is Arthur. What is it? Streeton. And I think he was an English painter, if I remember correctly. Anyway, you know, lots of nice brushwork, very loosely painted, good control of value. You know, knew exactly how to get you to go to the focal point, which is this little boy standing right here in the shadow with that little bit of light hitting him. If you look at everything, a lot of the color is subdued, you know, all the way back in the background. All of this is kind of grayed down, and it holds together because everything's got sort of a underpinning of blue, you know, this blue-gray in the color. And then he gets to the foreground, and, you know, he hits you with this yellow, though the yellow is toned down as well. So this tends to be kind of a soft-feeling painting. You know, the color is not terribly intense until you really get to this little boy right here. And then the skin tone and then the hat itself, you know, is fairly intense, and it draws your eye right over to where he wants you to go. Now I'm kind of thinking that this is a bigger painting, not a small one. But yeah, you can see pretty much so exactly what's going on with this kid. See? Not a lot of detail, but, you know, good accurate shapes, good values. And then, you know, just these little kind of touches of like really intense color, you know, like that really intense red and blue. Right here on the face, again, a little bit more intense red. Over here around the hand and the collar. So, you know, just little touches of it. And the surface here, you know, of all the grass and stuff, you know, he didn't take the time to paint a bunch of blades of grass. Yeah, that's not what he did. You know, really until he got like right up here in the foreground. And, you know, then he put in just a little more of a suggestion of different types of plants and stuff in there with some flowers and things. And it was just, again, just enough. He didn't overwork it. You know, he didn't try to make it look photographic or representational. You know, he just laid it in there, and then you see it and you interpret it the way you want to. Yeah, here's another, you know, really nice landscape painting. And, you know, everything seems to work, you know, really nicely. If you look at the foreground, for example, and I talk about this quite a bit, you know, changing the scale of things, you know, as they get closer to you, they're going to get bigger. Whoop, I kind of went to the next one, yeah. You know, same thing though. You know, nice, really nice use of color, you know, good control, you know, of color and value. Yeah. And again, you call this fairly loose. It's just, yeah, Renoir. Okay. So now, I don't know what you think of Renoir's work. You know, I'm not usually like a big fan. Okay. But you know, he does some nice stuff. You know, and one of the things that he does really nicely is the use of color and temperature, but also how he keeps, you know, the intensity and edges of the painting sort of clear and very defined. And then the backgrounds and things, he softens quite a bit, you know, as a contrast. So, you know, he was using, you know, all of those classical tenets of painting, you know, to get his paintings to work. You know, again, here's a very loose, you know, painting. Now this is Bert Morceau, who was an impressionist as well, a female impressionist. Are you guys familiar with her?
No, not really.
No? Okay, we talked about her when we talked about the impressionists. You know, her and Mary Cassatt was really more of a, kind of more in the post-impressionist time frame. Bert Marceau was, you know, right there with all the boys. Good painter, you know, very good painter. She did some really nice stuff. It's another one of hers. Kind of reminds me of the brushwork of like Cecilia Beau a little bit. So, these are all hers. Again, you know, nothing really tight, you know. You know, just enough just to say, okay, you know, it's a young woman, you know, you see her face, but, you know, it's not really a portrait. You know, the movement and the brushwork in the water, the trees in the background, all that pulls together pretty nicely. This is Camille Pizarro, another impressionist, the old guy of the group. Okay. And again, you know, it's loose, but it's accurate. And that's, you know, keep going back to that over and over and over again. And that's, you know, that's kind of the balance you want to strike is, you know, you want your brushwork loose, but you want to be accurate as well. Let's see. Yeah, this is Child Haslam, who was an American painter. And always love his work.
That's really nice. That's nice. I like that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, he really, you know, really pushed color. And he didn't just paint shape. He painted form. And that's sort of one of the big differences is, you know, seeing form, not, you know, not just shape. So. Yeah.
Can you define that a little bit? Form?
Do what now?
Can you define form a little bit?
Form, seeing the planes, you know, and the structure,
Okay.
right?
Right.
Not just looking at, you know, kind of a flat outline shape.
Okay.
And that's something that Chris Fornatero sort of skipped over and didn't really address in that painting. One of the things that would have made it better is if he would have broken up his change in value in those trees to sort of show you the form, you know, before he really got, you know, that deep into it. Yeah, and that's one of the things you see really commonly when people go out and paint plein air. You know, they're painting a tree, but the tree looks flat because it's just it's a shape. And it's like, how do you turn that flat shape into a three-dimensional form by changing value and giving it some volume, right? There's a trick to that and a lot of practice. So, yeah, Mr. Monet, you know, everybody loves Monet, right? Everybody wants Monet. There we go. You know, guy knew what he was doing. Beautifully done. Who is this? E. Phillips. E. Phillips. Huh. Yeah, not familiar with him or her. So, you know, nice painting, nice composition. You know, good use of light and shadow and temperature. So. Yeah, now this is you know, this is a little bit about what I was talking about, you know, painting shapes and not painting forms. You know, he's really kind of right on the borderline where like these trees look kind of flat, you know, and not really dimensional, you know, and they kind of go back and forth a little bit. So, but I've painted trees like this before, you know, when they're all in bloom. You know, it's actually quite hard, you know, it really is. Let's see. Yeah, it's pretty nice. You know, very painterly. But again, you know, look at how he separates out the two trees, you know, one that's backlit and the one that's closer to us. And he just changes the value so that, you know, the one that overlaps, you know, is darker, you know, and so it reads and it separates. It's kind of nice. Okay, Edward Henry. Oh, okay. You know, if you want to paint horizon lines and water, you know, you need to go back and look at this. you know, how he uses color up there.
That has to be a big painting.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's probably pretty good size. Well, now look at the signature on it. Yeah,
No,
it's
that's
probably
not
not
big.
that big. Yeah, it's probably not that big.
Yeah, yeah. Seems like the scene has to be, you know, is grandiose.
Yeah, I mean it's a nice painting. Let's blow it up a little bit. Take a look at it. Get a little closer to it. Looks like watercolor, doesn't it?
Yeah, well,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm guessing it's watercolor. At first I thought it was oil, but looking more closely at it, it definitely feels more watercolor-like. Chickens out under the tree. So anyway, you know, there's some, that's way too small. Yeah. Yeah. Now here's a good painting to look at. Would you call this loose or tight?
yes.
Yes. Yes, what?
It's
Loose,
some of
loose or tight?
Tight.
Loosely tight.
Yeah, tight.
It kind of almost looks tight, right? But it's not. You know, I mean, where the cows are, yeah. You know, the edges are sharper. You know, the male figure back there, and you know, again, if you kind of compare this to like Sargent, it's the exact same approach, say, as Sargent took. You know, he would put in the details where he wanted you to focus. You know, are those tighter edges and things, the little hints of light, things like that. And then as you move back, you know, away from the focal point, what happens to the rest of the painting? Just gets loose, you know, gets loose, you know, controlling value, the intensity, you know, all of that. And this guy really handled it beautifully. I mean, it's a nice painting. So.
very moving.
Yes, it is very moving. So, you know, nice little painting. So, okay, what do you think? Loose, tight?
I think it's more loose than tight. However, the detail is all in the figure's face.
Right.
And everything else is much looser. It's defined. You know what they are.
Yep.
But
but not overworked. You know, just again, you know, it gives you just, or it's actually she, Emily. Shanks. What is the last name?
Shanks.
Shanks. Yeah, Emily Shanks.
What about the detail in the background, that fence or whatever that wood structure is back there?
Well,
it's kind of sharp.
It's kind of suggested, you know, and is it really? I mean, sharp?
It looks like not that at the top.
Yeah.
Up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like a timber or something.
Yeah, it looks like an old structure that's kind of fallen apart or something. But again, you know, it's a suggestion that it's there.
Mm.
You know, it's not really it's not really all that tight. But as she comes forward, you know, like some of these leaf shapes and things like that, again, you know, accurate, but they're not really all that tight. And, you know, Bob kind of hit the nail on the head. It's like all the sharp edges, all the detail, all the contrast in the whole painting. It's right there. So right there on the face. You know, again, you know, that's a very, you know, typical approach to, you know, painting a portrait like John Singer Sargent would employ. Kind of the same thing. But, you know, if a lot of us would have painted this painting, it's like the flowers and things up here would have all been really tight. You know, but she didn't do that. You know, she kept them a good suggestion of this is a blade of grass, this is, you know, flowers, things like that. But she didn't render them. She didn't render them tightly. She saved all of that, you know, for right here, from the hands to the face itself. You know, just
now, if the foreground flowers were rendered tightly and specific petals and blades, I would think that the face would not be as tight. Is that correct?
right. Yeah. Well, you know, or this whole area would flatten out because they're kind of balanced or equal, right?
Mm-hmm.
But because she just tightened up, it's really like the hands to the face,
Right.
and that triangle right there. Everything within there is fairly tight. Everything out here is it's just, when you go up and look at it, it's just paint. You know, it looks like blades of grass right now, but is it? No.
It looks like one of those paintings that you need to see it from a fair distance, because if you get too close, the rendering of the face is almost overdone compared to the rest of the painting. But if you stand back from it a ways, I think it's more likable.
Yeah. Yeah, I would tend to agree with you on that. Okay, well, I kicked this out of there. Anyway, yeah, he's got a bunch more paintings here. Okay, but you get the idea, right? And we're going to now, if I can, there we go. Yeah. Now we're gonna do a little tour of the Atlanta Artist Center and the show that they've got up right now, because they've got some things that are worth looking at, and you know, and particularly for all of you who are here, you know, there's something there that will apply to each and every one of you. Let's see, yeah, right here. Now, you know, I've always liked the Atlanta Artist Center. You know, I think they're a great organization. You know, I don't want to brag on them too much or anything like that, but they are getting, you know, they're getting some really good work in there. Now, unfortunately, there are several watercolors in here. They're all under glass, and unfortunately, we get the glare from the window, so please forgive that. But this is, you know, this is certainly not loose. Okay, this is not loose.
No, this is.
Yeah, and this is a watercolor. It's not real big. It's probably, you know, probably like 24-30, you know, roughly. You know, but the color, the value, everything's managed, you know, really nicely on this. And it does, it makes a nice painting. You know, this person, let's see, took second place, okay? And who is this? This is Catherine Moore. Oh, and it's colored pencil. It's not watercolor. Okay. Ha! So there you go. You know, I like this painting quite a bit. You know, when I saw it, it's a fairly large painting. It's very simple. You know, but you know, real strong. You know, good contrast. You know, really intense color, and it's an oil. I'm pretty sure. Or no, it's acrylic. So yeah, Nancy Jeanette Long did this.
That's quite interesting with the sharp vertical divide.
Yeah, it's really kind of, you know, half and half. And you know, I don't know whether she intended to do this. You know, I'm sure she painted this before the outbreak of the Russian-Ukraine war, but it looked like a Ukrainian flag. You know, different blue and darker version of yellow, but you know. Now this is a very loosely painted sailboat. And I looked at this, and there's a lot of paint on there. And I mean a lot of paint.
Good acrylic?
I think it's oil.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. Yeah, it's oil.
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, Kathy Mead. But yeah, I mean, you know, nice layering of, you know, passages of oil paint on there. Wasn't afraid to, you know, put a little bit of paint down on the canvas. Some of it was probably done with palette knife, and then the rest of it was done with brush. But everything is like really, you know, very loose, and it's all kind of this optical, you know, reaction. So. This was a really nice piece as well. And this is a watercolor. And again, you know, it was under glass, so, you know, you're getting a little bit of glare on there. Apologize for that. Yeah. And this guy, this is, I want to say his name is Richard Clark, but it said E. Clark. I met him several times. African-American gentleman, really good watercolorist, you know, very, very good watercolorist, and does some really interesting work, you know, really beautifully painted. And again, you know, you look at this and you kind of feel like it's a fairly tight painting, you know, but it's not really. You know, he's really conscientious of all of his shapes and values and things like that. And he just does enough, you know, doesn't overwork it. So I lost, oh, here we go. Yeah. So yeah, E. Clark. Not sure what E stands for. John, this one's for you. Or no, this is not for you. This is actually for Bob. Bob, okay. This is a scratch board.
Okay. Hey.
Oh, wow.
Lovely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really nicely done.
Yes, it is. Well colored.
Pardon?
Yep. It's well colored. I mean, the ink they used on it was really great.
Right. Yeah.
Almost as good as my work.
Almost.
Close. Getting close, Bob. Getting close.
Okay. Yeah, this is done by Catherine Moore. Okay. She did the colored pencil piece. Remember?
Are these all local artists?
Yeah. Yep. You know, relatively local.
Yeah.
You know, they may live in Morrow or, you know, some of the other areas, but yeah, metro area. So
This one's not, is this an open show or is this members only?
I think this one was open, you know, to members and non-members alike. So, but yeah, it's a nice piece. Yeah, here's E. Clark's second piece. Now this one took first place, and I wish we didn't have the glare on it. I really do. You know, there's a detail shot, but yeah, it's really nicely painted, and it's watercolor. You know, there's his big blue first ribbon, and here's the tag for it. You know, work clothes. You know, so now I was kind of surprised actually. This painting, I like this painting a lot better than the other painting that he did, and this is actually larger, but it's less money than the other painting, you know, that we saw earlier. So who knew? Here's a little collage work. Okay. And this was kind of fun. So there's elements that have been painted. There's collage, there's photography. So.
Does it have a title?
Yes. Number 58.
Okay.
There you go. That tells you a lot, doesn't it?
Sure does.
Really?
Yeah.
No mystery there.
I
No.
don't know. 57 and 59 are probably similar.
Right. All right. Here's okay. Now, this guy's name is Art McNaught. He either is or was the president of you know, the Atlanta Artist Center for I think a couple of years. Anyway, he generally likes to paint sort of mechanical things, you know, cars, motorbikes, you know, stuff. You know, it's a nice piece. It's a little bit unusual in style for him. It's more abstract than what he normally gets. Yeah. Aha. Here you go, Bob.
Yeah, really. I was just thinking the same thing. And it works.
Uh-huh.
The figures are small.
Yep. Yeah, but very simple, you know, very simply painted. You know, didn't try to give them, you know, well, didn't have to paint faces because they're heading away from you in the first place.
Right.
You know, but the second thing is, you know, they just simplified the shapes. You know,
Yeah.
it's all color value.
How big a painting is this?
Mm-hmm. Probably about the size you're working. Probably about 18, 24. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I thought that was your painting.
Thank you.
There you go. Just go. Yeah, just go down and take it off the wall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just switch the card.
Yeah. The thing I liked about this painting the best was the frame. It's really nice, kind of older wooden frame. Looks like, you know, kind of recycled wood. But, you know, it had a nice profile to it. And, you know, really nicely done.
That's the picture. Not for sale. Okay.
Yeah, not for sale. Yeah. So, you know, right after the show, you got to go down and grab it and run.
I do. I know that. Yes. Thank you for reminding me.
Okay. Now, this was a nice painting. It didn't photograph as well as I'd hoped. And we've seen this lady's work, you know, in a couple of examples so far. But she has a couple of different styles, you know. Now, this is, again, you know, it's not real tight. You know, there's a lot of grass blades and stuff there, but they're just kind of very loosely, you know, kind of laid in there. Yeah, Kathy Mead. She did the watercolor and the color pencil. I think this is oil. I'm pretty sure this is oil.
It says oil.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a kind of a close up. Now, gee, let's see if we can focus the camera on something other than the frame. Now, I'm going to talk about this lady right here a little bit. Her name is Cindy Fox. Cindy took classes with me for about 5 or 6 years. And so, you know, she's been doing some portraits and things lately. And this is not, you know, one of my favorite paintings of hers. But she can do, you know, some really nice work. She did better on the fox than she did on the goat. But again, you know, she's, you know, it's fairly loosely painted. But, you know, pretty good values, you know, good use of color, you know, warm and cool. You know, the fox definitely, you know, pops forward. So, but I was very happy to see her work, you know, in the show. Yeah, here's her third piece. You know, so you got some sand dunes out there. The guy trudging through it. You know, but she didn't make any of them white. You know, she, you know, she got a little color in just about everything, including the sky and the clouds and stuff. So she must have been awake that day. So, anyway, and then there was this piece. Now, let's talk about this piece. This is not Cindy's, by the way.
The Veronicas?
No. But
No, I didn't do that.
yeah,
Oh,
this
okay.
is, yeah, it's a mixed media piece. And I cannot, for the life of me, you know, figure out, you know, how she got, you know, all this resist out here. You know, there's just, it's got kind of a really interesting texture. Now, the piece itself is absolutely smooth. You know, you don't see any raised paint or anything. You know, it's just a really nice smooth surface. You know, and Pablo's choice, yeah. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out, you know, how they did that, but I was impressed by that piece. Liked it. Now this is another one of the pieces. Now this is an encaustic, which means that it's pigment that's suspended in wax. That's what she's painting with. Okay, but it says pastel. But yeah, this was definitely an encaustic because it had like a layer of wax over it. So maybe she mixed pastel in her wax. I don't know. Yeah, this was interesting. This is a guy. He's you know, he's usually putting sculptures, you know, in because that's what he does. This is a little more abstract than what he normally does. He usually does figures. But yeah, nice piece of wood. You know, really nicely carved with the grain. You know, the base was well put together. And he took third place for that piece. And then right next to it was another piece of his work. And this is one of the female figures that he did.
Were there categories?
No. No. No, they don't usually divide them up. You know, you put the work in and it's all just judged, you know, first, second, third, honorable mention. Normally shows there get somewhere between 50 to 100 pieces on average. So it was now this is an acrylic painting. And I like the looseness of it. The color doesn't work for me, you know. it's, yeah, something isn't quite working, you know.
It seems to be, it's almost too much out of focus.
Well, you know, that, and then, you know, these oranges and things, and it's not, you know, she lays in these very kind of square brush strokes, you know, and all four edges are fairly tight, and it kind of flattens things out a little bit. But it was an interesting style, nice presentation, you know, nice frame on it and stuff. You know, that was an interesting piece. Now that had like metal foil, you know, like gold leaf in it. And then they've layered paint over the gold leaf, you know, with the leaf showing through. So let's see. Yeah, here it is. Okay. Yeah, roses in the snow. Yeah. But anyway, I thought I would show those to you. Anybody got any thoughts about any of them?
I like that. I like that. Very interesting artists.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, good variety of work, and you know, most of it's really pretty strong.
Yeah.
You know, nicely presented. You know, the gallery looked nice. You know, they had it well hung, and pretty well lit. You know, the only, like I said, the only issue I had is that with a lot of the watercolors and pieces on paper, you know, they had glass, but all the glass was just, you know, like regular picture frame glass. It wasn't there. And so, you know, you just, you know, you got a lot of reflections and stuff in it. But, you know, what are you going to do? So,
Right.
anyhow, that's about all I got. Anybody got any anything we need to talk about before we go away today?
I will not be here tomorrow morning. I'll send you an email so you can send me the whatever we're going to draw tomorrow, if you don't mind.
Yeah, yeah, that always works. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna be doing more on the human figure, but we're going to kind of get into a little bit of the anatomy part of it. Okay. So, but yeah, should be fun tomorrow morning.
It's always fun.
And it's Friday. So that's right. So you know, it's probably a little bit too early for margaritas, but you know, hey, if you guys showed up with margaritas, you know.
Mimosa will work.
Huh?
A mimosa will work.
Right, that's a morning drink.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. There you go. You know, that or a tequila sunrise. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, thank you for all of you coming, and we will see you hopefully in the morning. You know, make sure your pencils are sharp and you got some paper to draw on. Okay. I'm gonna try this.
Thank you.
I'm gonna try this silly TV again and see if we can get
Okay. Good luck.
All right.
See you in the morning. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right. Good
Thank
night.
you.